Welcome back to part 2 of It Takes Two. So before the break, I read this letter out from the young sister, and she's essentially asking, is waiting to get married and the expectations that one has when they're waiting to get married. Is it cracked up? Is it all that it's cracked up to be? Essentially, I'd like to, as it's a sister, I'd like to start with yourself, Sister Ruby, if that's okay.
What is it? Marriage all it's cracked up to be? Or waiting? First of all, let's remind the sister that everything we do, inshallah, is for the pleasure of Allah, and we do things in order to please Him, and we try and follow His doctrine to the best of our ability. So we're not saving ourselves because we're told to do it by somebody. Allah has recommended that we live our lives in a certain way.
Yeah.
So nothing that we do is wasted, and I really, as a sister, I really sympathize with her. And she's not alone. There are so many sisters out there who are good sisters, genuinely, wallahi, who are doing everything right, but they're waiting for the right person. And that in itself is a struggle and a test, and it really is a test for a lot of women.
It sounds like the right thing to do. It doesn't sound...
it's the right thing to do because
doing anything negative. It's positive.
It is positive. It's what Allah would like us, how He would like us to conduct our lives. And I just want to, as a sister, tell the sister, in this society, and I'm not talking about the West, I'm talking about the time we live in, there are so many pressures to do what you want to do, live in the moment. But if you speak to people who have actually gone through that, I'm not just talking about Muslims, I'm talking about non-Muslims, they will tell you that most of all this is a lie. This be free and do what you want. There's a consequence, there's psychological effects with everything that we do in life. There's consequences. So
that's not what they show in the films or in popular culture.
Well, no. Well, how would they
videos.
benefit from, showing how life is? Do they show the amount of girls who are sitting there suicidal or heartbroken, or who, they get married and they can't think about the person they were with before? That's a lot of baggage to carry into a relationship. So I would just say, keep on your prayers. Is it all that it's cracked up to be? Allahu alam, every situation is different. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's going to be like a Disney movie and every day He's going to give you a rose. And be realistic. Marriage it's like a business. It takes work, and sometimes you have to compromise. But we're pearls. We're queens in this religion. We really are. We are honoured. We're not doing things as women to please mankind or our family. We're doing it for our protection of our own souls.
So it's not about culture and things like that.
We are gems. We are pearls.
It's for what Allah's given a wisdom.
We are pearls, and once you give something away, you'll never get it back. So, I'm telling her as a sister, believe me, I have friends from all different religions, and I respect them all. But what she should be honoured that she's been able to keep herself in the way that she has. Not a lot of people have that resolve to do that, but I'll give it to somebody else. I always talk too much.
Sheikh, I want to ask you a question related to this letter, and that's, is it a Islamic requirement for a young lady to save herself for a permanent marriage for when she's proposed to and she rides off into the sunset with her husband on a white horse, a prince that comes to save her, or is she allowed to do muta, for example?
As we touched upon earlier, the ladies or the girl is allowed to become anyone's wife or marry anyone she wishes, as long as her father has given permission for her to do so. Any activity that takes place must take place within the marriage, obviously, but at what age she marries is down to her and the suitor that comes along. Now, for this particular girl, or the lady that has asked the question, I think you said she's 27 years old. It's interesting, she says that she's 27 years old and a quarter of her life has passed. I don't think that if she thinks about it realistically, she has any idea how long she's going to be on this earth. Nor can anyone that is sitting here guarantee that their next breath will come out. It is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala how long we live, and how long we're on this earth. Yes, there are certain averages that you can go by and you can guesstimate and estimate and so forth. But the fact of the matter is, the fact that she's writing this down or she's asking a question, it seems that she has faith and she has a religion. And each religion has boundaries and has certain rules. We believe as Muslims that the rules and the boundaries of our religion is put down by the Almighty. Hence, it is the best rules that is in our benefit, not to benefit anyone else, and not just to benefit us in this dunya, but also in the akhirah. Therefore, if she is acting on her religion, then surely she will seek the rewards in this dunya and in the akhirah, and she will keep herself away from anything that is forbidden or prohibited, and any activity that is sexual that she engages in will be inside a marriage, inshallah, that Allah is happy with, and inshallah her father and her family and herself are all pleased with, inshallah.
I just wanted to say though, like, I'm thinking that everybody's affected by the culture they live in. As Muslims, we live in the East, the West, you know, the different cultures that we exist in as Muslims. And I'm wondering about the type of expectations. Where are we getting our expectations? Where are young people getting their expectations for marriage? You know, Sister mentioned something important, you know, is it all that it's cracked up to be? But where's that idea coming from? Is that from Quran and Sunnah, from Islamic history? Or is that from, you know, the television? Popular culture, the movies, you know?
It's a very good question that you ask, because many ideals, the 100% ideal thoughts that people have in their minds, is mostly taken away from media and taken away from films and shows and things like that. And most of those films and shows are Western. And as the sister mentioned, they have a reason why they promote that kind of thought. There is a planned route why they're going through that option. It's not the case that, you know what, they happen to choose this faith. Or this.
So it's not random?
No, not at all. It's programmed that they want to make shows and programs and films and blockbuster films and Hollywood films and so forth, and show people a particular mindset and a particular way to think. Unfortunately, what happens is when you don't have a better understanding of how life is and what faith and what religion is and how to live correctly, you fall into the trap of thinking that those ideals are correct and those are the ideals that you should take for yourself. Hence, many of the people that you may ask will tell you their ideal life, or if you ask them what their ideal life is, many of the things that name is materialistic. For example, this person that has sent it said, is it all that is cracked up to be? So marriage is not about this. When you know the unity of these two people, this has a part in it. It's a very important part, but this isn't all. It's not what it's all about. To become one, to become a unit that is inseparable, to become something that is, if you imagine, it's two pillars that is holding up a building. That if one of them moves or one of them cracks, the entire building will collapse. That's how it should be in a marriage.
Okay.
Not just this is just one aspect that makes things complete. It's not everything.
But Sheikh, maybe she's thinking that she hasn't had an example of a good marriage, and maybe the people around her are looking so miserable that it almost looks like they're forced to stay in a marriage, because what else are they going to do? So maybe her question is, okay, I'm doing my part, but what's there to guarantee that I'm going to be rewarded? And I hear this from a lot of sisters.
Rewarded with romance? Because that's what I hear in between. When she says cracked up to be,
like,
I mean...
Honestly, you know what it's like as a woman. I'll just be honest with you. It's like you get a recipe to make a sponge cake. You get all the ingredients for the sponge cake. So, you know, you do your prayers, you do your amals, you go on ziyarat, you're great with your parents, you give to the community. So you're following this recipe, and at the end you get crisps. And you're like, how did I get crisps when I was making sponge cake? And I think that's what she's saying. There's a sense of desperation that I'm doing all these things. When is my reward going to come? And if it comes, how do I know that? What if it isn't what I expect? And a lot of sisters fear this. They're saying, I'm doing my part, but one, when is the payoff going to come?
And payoff, and again,
in terms of getting married,
right.
if that's what you want. And what if when it comes, it isn't what I wanted, for example? It's not all that I'm cracked up to be. So a lot of sisters are very nervous because it's a big gamble for sisters.
So is it a wrong expectation then if sisters are, do you feel or think that sisters are expecting romance?
What's wrong with romance?
No, I'm asking the question.
Okay.
Is it wrong for sisters to expect romance? Because some people have a perception of marriage as quite functional. You come from the right culture, or you got the right from the right language group, or you're quite religious, financially secure. Things of this nature tend to take.
But you're boring.
Take precedence, yeah.
But you're boring.
There's no starch. There's no connection. There's no magnetism. But on paper, the person
that sounds like oppression.
No,
so is this some sort of Western this thing called romance? This notion, is this a kind of Western idea that's crept into the hearts of the Muslims?
In the Middle East, you have wonderful poetry and stories.
I asked a question. So is it
we'll
unrealistic? I'm asking you both. I'm interested to hear what you have to say also. But Sheikh, now we'll start with yourself.
A couple of points with regards to what the sister said. One is that the girls are apprehensive about what will happen to them after they become married and they've done everything. When you say they've done everything, first of all, who has written the recipe and who is doing the cooking? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has written the recipe and you follow it correctly, there is no going wrong.
What does that mean, Sheikh? When you say there's no going wrong?
It's because they're not following the recipe correctly.
But that's a big gamble.
Or they're not understanding the end results as they should be understanding. You see,
so I have to suffer.
Because there's two people involved here, so maybe the sister, say on the sister's part, she's followed the recipe.
I'm not talking about male or female.
Okay.
Because see, again, I think the subject here shouldn't be about romance. There's this issue that she's saving herself, and it's not a big deal. At the end of the day, most of the men that are being married may have saved themselves as well. That's not the issue here. The issue is not about saving yourself, that you've done everything, that's it. No, you haven't done everything by saving yourself. That's just one part of a huge puzzle.
Okay, say some more, Sheikh. Say something.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created every person for a reason. One of those steps to completion, to being a better person, to being a better human. See, what is religion? You strip it down to the essentials of it. Okay, you look at Islam, you look at any other religion that came before it. The essentials is to make you a decent human being, not more, not less. You look at the great sins. What are the great sins? Lying, backbiting, stealing, killing, raping, taking what's not yours. What do those make you, if you stop doing those? A better human being. What is compulsory? Praying, giving khums, which is a compulsory type of sadaqah to other people, giving helping hand to those that need it, being kind. Allah says, if you want to know that if I'm happy with you, see if your family are happy with you. If they're happy with you, then I'm happy with you. The whole system is to make you a decent person. It's putting down certain rules and certain recipes, if you like to call it, so that you can be a decent person. Being a decent person does not necessarily mean that everyone around you will be decent. No. You have your duty regardless of the outcome. So you have a certain recipe to follow because you believe in something greater.
But that sounds like you're speaking about the wajibat and what the
But marriage is part of it.
No, but what I'm thinking about is sometimes what we find, what we struggle with as Muslims is not between the halal and haram. Two people may agree that, this is the correct way to do things, but the fashion in which they do it, they may be missing some starch.
Give me 2 minutes to finish what I was saying.
No problem.
And if you're still not there, then I'll come back to it. Now, the recipe or the laws that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put down is the best of the best, if we believe in Islam. Otherwise we have to start somewhere else. But imagine that we're talking to Muslims, okay? If you're talking to Muslims, then they believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Hakim. There is a hikmah, there is a wisdom in everything that is put down for you. Because it's needless. Allah is needless, so if there is a law, it is for your need, not for His need. If you're praying, it's because you're needed, not He's needy of your prayer. If you're fasting, it's because you're needy of that fasting, not He's needy of your fasting for Him. If you're giving sadaqah, you're needy of helping other people, not that He's needy of you helping other people, okay? So the greater aspect of the spiritual is not physical. The physical side of a marriage in the whole grand scheme of things is a very small part of the puzzle. This whole thing of people thinking that it's all about romance, it's all about, how many people, as far as I'm concerned, the people that come to me, not many of them get divorced because of romantic issues. There are far, far many other things that causes divorce, and romance is down the list. Okay? Because too much, as you said, because of certain Western ideals, or I'm not even calling it Western because in the East it's sometimes far worse. In the media, too much emphasis is put down on the physical aspect of marriage, rather than the soulful aspect of it, rather than sharing two minds together, rather than
Isn't that part of romance?
completing one another. Sorry?
Isn't that part of romance?
Yes, but not the physical side. See, all this is she's talking about is the physical side. Is it all that is set out to be? It's all physical. Okay. It's 1%. She's missing the 99%. Okay, that makes a decent life and decent marriage, and concentrate on the 1%. Just like the person before that was asking about, what if I marry a divorcee and I think about how she was married? See, he's missing the point. He's made something so minute that he's missing the bigger picture. That if she is the true person, that would nowhere be anything that she should concern himself with. Doesn't matter if she's a bit older, or she's a bit younger, or she's divorced, or she had 3 kids, or none of those. The matter is, it's a project that you need to do together. It's two halves that complete one another. And if you can do that, then it's just one step closer to carrying out that recipe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done and put down for you.
So you're talking about a spiritual connection, a higher connection. Alhamdulillah. Sister.
I'm happy with that.
Oh, you good with that one?
I am, but
right.
I just want to say, honestly, it is a struggle for sisters. A lot of the time, they're only human, that you think you're doing the right thing and you can lose hope in that, sometimes you think, is Allah seeing all this? When am I going to get my reward? And it's a very real thing. You might hear someone say for 5 minutes, oh, your reward is with Allah, but then you go back home and you see your friends all married and there you are. So I sympathise with it. Inshallah, it will rectify itself.
Inshallah. Okay, only because of time, we'll this is an intriguing letter that we just read, but I just want to do justice and get this other last letter in, inshallah. It reads, Dear ItTakes2, my son is disabled. Even though he's disabled, he can still distinguish between right and wrong. He very much wants to get married. He yearns for intimacy. When you have a disability, it can be very difficult to find a spouse. So for the time being, I have decided to find him a mutter for him to have for a short period. Is this Islamically okay? I guess there's issues around Islamic opinion on disability and things to do with the emotional impact. But what are your first thoughts, Sheikh, in terms of it being okay?
To be honest, I don't know the specifics of this case, but as far as Islamic Sharia fiqh is concerned, a disabled person is no different to a non-disabled person. A person who has arms missing, legs missing. I have no idea what disability this person is, but generally a disabled person has the same conditions, the same rights, the same points as someone that is not disabled. The only time that there is a difference is when the person has a mental disability. When the person has a mental disability, it becomes different. For example, you cannot put a girl that has mental disability to become married to someone when she doesn't even know what marriage is. Okay? Or vice versa. A man who has a mental disability that might be harmful to his wife. So the mental disability put to the side, I presume she's talking about a physical disability.
Yeah. Well, she said mentions right or wrong, so I don't know if she's alluding to.
So if it's a physical disability, there is no need to find a temporary marriage for her. You can marry permanently, as far as you find the right person that is suited. Not everybody has that mentality that that person who is disabled is less able or less of a person.
Less worthy, yeah.
Exactly, less worthy. So find them a person that understands them, that can make. If for whatever reason it is that you want to find them a temporary marriage, then that's down to you. It's all down to them, if you like. I'm sure they have their mind and they have their own thought processes, that disabled person. You can ask them what they prefer, what they want, and the options in front of them, let them choose. The only thing that I would add to this, that one of the conditions where it becomes problematic and the lady can straight away ask for a divorce is if the disability affects his personal contact. Okay? Then that can be a different situation.
Can I just say that I know of a few couples who have disabilities who have married, and they were physical disabilities, and either both of them had physical disabilities or have physical disabilities, or one of them is, don't like to use the word able-bodied, but I can't think of the correct terminology, and the other person is, and they're very happy, alhamdulillah. So I think my concern is, and I definitely believe that everyone should have a right, disabled or not, as the Sheikh said, to live their lives, you know, in the best way that they want, is that when it comes to, let's think about people who have learning difficulties, and I'm sure as a parent, there are precautions that you would have to take. For example, what if you have a child that has Down syndrome and is a female? There's some genetic issues that you need to think about there, especially when it comes to if a child, you know, if you're married, then there's a possibility of having children. And as a female, if you have Down syndrome, how would the person, do they have the support to have a child, etc.? These are things to think about, that, but they're not, they shouldn't stop anybody.
No, because I was making a note that with disabilities, whether physical or mental, that there's an emotional impact on the family, on the individual, if they get married and things like that. So there's also that side of things as well.
But it is a bit just like with divorced people and people who are widows or widowers. It is a little bit more challenging, and often there is a taboo in the community. With every community, that they might be startled if somebody approached you who was disabled. You know, you might be fine with it, but your parents might think of it as, you know, my goodness, you know, the audacity of it. But we're all, you know, human, and Allah loves us all. So personally, I don't think there's an issue. I've seen perfectly good marriages from disabled people, etc. So yeah, I would encourage her to go out there and help her son or daughter. Is it a son or
sounds
daughter?
like a son.
Yeah,
It sounds like a son.
Inshallah.
I actually wanted to just push the boat out a bit further.
Okay.
I'm going to try and find the most polite terminology, but you know, in a scenario like this, where the person is being assisted because they have a disability to find a mutter, there are some people that in this society, some women who sell intimacy, if I can put it that way. Is that permissible for you know?
Oh, as a trade?
Yeah,
right.
people who are involved in it on a professional level.
There is different rulings on that, depending on the mujtahid or the faqih that they want to ask as assistance from, or they follow as a marja. Some allow it, some don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there?
There's lots of ancillaries to do with it, but the point is that they can ask their marja a specific question about a specific situation.
Is there a, okay, without getting into the which marja, but is there like a kind of common opinion?
A universal one?
There isn't, because some
I know okay. There's difference of opinion, but
so,
like
the issue is this: that first of all, there's a thing called mashhura bil-zina. Okay, a woman who is known or famous for adultery. So she's known that she takes money, or she does adultery. She acts adultery because of money. If that woman is a person who takes money for adultery and sells herself and commits adultery and does not refuse any man, so whoever comes and pays, she's happy with. The vast majority of marajih have this as forbidden. Okay. However, there are many more scenarios that there are women that may take money but refuse some men who say, like, I like him, I'll take money for it. I don't like him, I won't take money for it. That becomes a different scenario.
More complex.
Sorry, I don't like that question. I know you had to ask it, but I find it a little bit, if I was a mother and I had a son who had a disability and someone suggested using other services, I would be a bit... upset?
No, far from it. I wasn't suggesting.
Not
I was,
that you were suggesting,
yeah, yeah,
but
I
you were
wasn't
saying,
suggesting.
alluding to that there might be.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Because I think I have heard of things of that nature where a person may find it extremely difficult to for a particular, whether it's a physical reason or
maybe
or
there
other.
are sisters who are widows or divorcees or single. That you don't know. I really believe Allah has created someone for everybody, and you just don't know.
Obviously, it's a very sensitive subject, but very real for some people.
Well, it is. But as I
like
said,
their
with the
reality.
friends I had, they met at a conference, and
So let's say he's asking this question not for what you're thinking, but for example, someone is nursing, so they want to do a aqd or they want to do a marriage, so that they can, she can touch him for halal. Maybe that's what the scenario that he's leading to, and the same thing would apply basically. Whoever the aqd or the marriage is allowed to be recited for. So if the marriage is correct, then everything is to do with it is allowed, and who is not allowed to be married to, everything with it becomes forbidden.
Okay, excellent. I think that's a good point to.
I had to bring it up because I work with some disabled children and their families, so I have a vested interest in them too. So
no doubt.
Inshallah.
All right. Only because of time, but Sister Ruby, thanks as always.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
And yourself, Sheikh, thank you so much for spending us the time.
Thank you.
Alhamdulillah. And to you, all viewers, thank you all for staying with us for the duration of It Takes Two, and hope to see you next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Do you need some relationship advice? Do you have marital problems or questions? Perhaps you want to get married and you have questions for us. Please send your thoughts or questions to ittakes2@sophiatv.com.